Hi, this is Rick Macci, and you're listening to the Tennis Lifestyle Podcast.
Welcome to 2022 and to a brand new episode of the Tennis Lifestyle Podcast. I'm Gianluca Sola, your host. We kick off 2022 with an incredible interview. I chat to Rick Macci. For those of you who don't know who Rick Macci is, he's a legendary tennis coach. He's been around for a very long time. He's done and seen it all. He's a USPTA Hall of Fame tennis coach, master professional, and also 7-time USPTA National Coach of the Year. He's trained 5 number 1 ranked players, including, which are Andy Roddick, Jennifer Capriati, Maria Sharapova, Serena, and Venus Williams. And he's coached also many other great juniors and top professionals. He's the owner and operator of the Rick Macci Tennis Academy, one of the top academies and most famous academies in the world. And at 67, he still currently coaches up to 50 hours a week, which is pretty incredible. Rick was crucial in the development of the Williams sisters, especially in their early junior years, in the early 90s. He coached them in his academy. We talk about this and obviously his professional life, also because recently the movie King Richard was released. It's a movie about Richard Williams and the Williams sisters, and also about Rick Macci because he plays a crucial role in the movie and in their development. I highly recommend watching the movie. It's just really well done. It's not only a movie for tennis lovers, but just a great story. So I think anybody will enjoy it. It's really shot well, and the acting is excellent. The main character, Richard Williams, is played by Will Smith. And there's a lot of talk of even Oscar nominations and so on. So I highly recommend it to go and watch it. Rick, as I said, also, so we talk about the movie, his involvement with the Williams sisters, and his academy, and many other things. Also, his coaching videos, highly recommend those. He is brilliant. His video analysis, Zoom virtual lessons, technical instructional videos are really a must. You can look them up on YouTube or on his website. All those details are on the notes in the podcast. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the interview and the podcast, and ciao, ciao. Hi, Rick. Thanks for coming on the Tennis Lifestyle Podcast. I know you are an extremely busy man. You are still coaching, I hear, about 50 hours a week at your academy. And with the movie King Richard, your life must be very hectic. So I really appreciate you giving me your valuable time. I believe also this morning you were busy coaching, or you just came off the court.
Yeah, I get up every morning at 3:30 and run a half mile. Then I open up the park where I teach at. It's called Rick Macci Tennis Center here in Boca Raton, Florida. And I'm on the court at 6. And I went today till 11:30. And we actually have a big prize money tournament every weekend. And it was interesting because Mary Jo Fernandez's son was playing, and got to talk to her on the way out. So then right now I'm in South Africa, so I'm all yours.
Thank you. I just want to introduce you for the few who probably have never heard of you. Rick Macci, you are, a coaching legend. You're a USPTA Hall of Fame tennis coach, master professional, and 7-time USPTA National Coach of the Year. You've trained 5 number 1s, I think, ranked players: Roddick, Andy Roddick, Jennifer Capriati, Maria Sharapova, Serena Williams, and Venus Williams. And obviously you've coached also many other great juniors and great professional players. You're the owner-operator of the Rick Macci Tennis Academy in Florida,
where you still currently coach every single day. And you were also crucial in the development of the Williams sisters in their, let's say, early years, junior years. And also you are one of the main characters in the movie King Richard, which was released just a few months ago, and talks about Richard Williams and obviously the Venus and Serena. So it's a real honor to have you on my podcast. One thing I want to start off just by asking you something that is just my personal curiosity. It's many years that I've had this question in my mind. The first time I came across your name, surname, Macci, I'm Italian, and I said Rick Macci, because that's how you say it in Italian. And then I heard people saying, no, Macci, Macci, Macci. So I'm just wondering, I know people say Macci, but what's the background or origin of your...
First off, great question. And you're right. My dad was from Italy and came to the United States, long ago. So I guess my name, instead of Rick Macci in Italy, it'd be Riccardo Macci. So you're right. It'd be Macci. So you're right. But ever since we were little, it was always here in the United States, it was Macci. But you're right. In Italy, it would be, I guess, Riccardo Macci.
Macci. But I think Macci sounds better, personally.
When people are saying your name, something good's going on. So I'll take it either way. How's that?
Okay. I wanted to talk about the movie, which obviously it's a big thing. Oscar nominations, blah, blah, blah. You play a major role. You're a character in the movie. But not only the movie, I also want to talk about your career and your tennis, coaching, etc. So if you don't mind, I'll start with the movie. But before we get there, just very briefly, can you tell us your tennis journey? You were born in Ohio, and how did you get into tennis? And from Ohio, how did you go to Florida?
I love these questions because I think everybody has a start, and I think people are just blown away now that I kind of tell my story a little bit. When I was younger, like you said, I grew up in a small town called Greenville, Ohio. It's about 20 miles southwest of Dayton, Ohio, right next to Union City, Indiana. And it was 10,000 people. And my parents were very avid golfers and like county champions. So there was some good athleticism in the family. Growing up, I had an older sister who's like a year and a half older than me. She was a very good swimmer. And I played golf all the time. I really thought I'd be a pro golfer someday. I had a very good handicap when I was young, but I played football, baseball, basketball, hockey, golf. I mean, you name it. I played every sport growing up, and I just loved competition. And we actually lived about a half a mile from a park. And, my father passed away when I was like, 10, 11, 12 years old. I don't quite remember. And we never joined the country club anymore. And I really didn't play golf that much after that, even though I had an amazing handicap. So I went down to the tennis courts, which you got to remember, this was, in the late 60s, and I just picked up a racket and a ball and started hitting against the wall. And one thing I liked is it always came back to me. I kind of like that. It came back. So I didn't even need a practice partner. I just loved the sound of the ball hitting the racket and fell in love with the game. And, to fast forward, even after basketball practice, I would practice hitting ground strokes against the wall in the gymnasium after basketball practice when all the guys were in their shower getting ready to go home. Janitor would close up and I'd be the last one to leave. And this was, during my high school career. And even because we really couldn't afford to go to Dayton and play indoors and pay money and all that stuff. And even my mom would drive me back to the school and park the car behind the school, and I'd hit against the wall. Sometimes I'd shovel snow and I'd hit against the wall. So the moral of the story is I never had a tennis lesson in my life. I picked up a racket at, say, age 12. At 18, I was the number one player in the Ohio Valley. I got real good real quick because I was pretty athletic and mentally strong, and became really good in tennis, and I never had a lesson. So fast forward to today, because I'm skipping over a heck of a lot here. I live a half mile I live a half mile from the park. It's called Rick Macci Tennis Center. It's the crown jewel of Palm Beach County. I mean, Kenan practices there, Tiafo. I mean, Opelka. There are many pros. We have tournaments. There's something for everybody. The academy's there. But I live a half mile from the park. I grew up a half mile in the park, and I teach more lessons, private lessons, than anybody in the United States. And so, and I still feel the same way and have the same passion I did as when I first picked up a racket, and have pretty much been doing the same thing ever since.
That's amazing. No, that's great. It's an amazing story. In the movie, you come across as a very energetic person, always moving, talking. You're never still. I don't want to say highly strung, but you come across as very energetic. Is that accurate? Is that how you would?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think, you know, the movie, you never can look, I never can look at me and say, is that me? You know, because I don't really know. Even though I've seen video of me speaking at conferences and motivational speaking, I kind of know, because I've seen enough, and there's stuff all over the internet of stuff that I've done. But the energy and the passion that John Bernthal portrayed, that was me, you know, and I'm still going strong now. I've always been wired that way. And so I'm glad they captured that. And most of all, that I was on a mission, and, you know, I teamed up with Richard, and I wasn't going to be denied, and how much I cared about the girls, because I think that was the main thing that everybody that really didn't know the story is going to know, you know, how I took a chance, not just the financial part, which was crazy, but, you know, just all in, because they could have been injured. I mean, I could have been wrong, but I saw something, and evaluating talent is all in the eye of the beholder. And once I believe in something, I knew what I had. So, but to answer your question, the energy, I've always kind of been like that. You know, I'm all in pretty much all the time.
That's fantastic. Was coaching Capriati, Jennifer Capriati, who was a very young prodigy, very helpful in understanding how to approach the journey and the coaching, and how to deal with Venus, Serena, and Richard? Because some tough decisions must be made at a very early age. Did that help you?
Well, first off, phenomenal question. Very insightful. I appreciate that. I think all my life experiences, you know, all my yesterdays lead me to today or tomorrow. So it's not just, you know, what I did with, you know, Jennifer Capriati or Tommy Ho, who I had before that, or, believe it or not, the whole South African team used to come to Greenleaf before the Williamses came. Wayne Freire, I could go on, you know, Byron Black, I work with him. He's from Zimbabwe. No, there's a whole, you know, Grant Stafford. I mean, I could go on, but I used to. So everybody that I've come in contact with my whole life, I think it helps you prepare for whatever you're going to deal with. So I wouldn't say Capriati. I think what it did help is I knew what greatness was, and I knew how Jennifer was wired, and I knew how she, how good she was, and that I thought she could become her number one in the world. So when I saw Venus and Serena, it was a very different playbook. I mean, they were arms and legs and hair going everywhere and beads falling off their head. And so technically or biomechanically, they were all over the place. I mean, they were 9 and 10. They were raw, but I never saw two little girls run like that and try so hard to the point where they almost fell down. There was like a rage. There was a rage inside these two little kids that I saw. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to be a great tennis player. You could work at, you know, Burger King. I don't know, but you're going to try that hard. There's a quality that I saw in these female athletes. So now I start projecting 6 feet, 160, 5'10", 145, big, strong, fast, quick. Because in the early 90s, if you were big and strong, you weren't nimble. You couldn't move that great. They had the whole package. So, but to answer your question, sure, the Jennifer thing helped just to give me a baseline, because Jennifer was the greatest junior player ever. And I'll put that not only in the United States, but in the whole world. think about it. She won the national girls 18s as a 12-year-old. And we both know that that's almost impossible nowadays. So it did help me, but I think everything prior to that, plus I know how to deal with human behavior. And I knew once I met Richard, it'd be a challenge, but if I dove into this, it was going to be about the girls. It wasn't going to be about Rick Macci or Richard Williams.
Okay. When you first started working with Venus and Serena, was there any specific technical flaw, like major flaw, that had to be fixed immediately?
Yeah, technical flaws everywhere, you know, and
Really?
I don't want to go, I don't want to go too deep here because the people listening might get confused, but biomechanically, the leg drive never initiated the racket speed. The racket was in the back way too soon. It was on the other side of the head. So, but there was something there to work with because there was good throwing motion, especially with Serena. But the whole synchronization from the kinetic chain from the ground up had to be rewired. And this is what people don't understand. The attention to details, especially with someone like myself, you know, regarding the technical part. You know, so the serve definitely. If you look at the video prior to Rick Macci, and then when she made her debut, you could see, wow, totally different. And then as she kind of went on her own in the Pro Tour, it kind of deviated a little different direction. But yeah, the serve, there was just a lot of technical help done on the serve. Now, what was interesting, Venus had very big backswings on everything, especially on the forehand. And so the backswing had to be condensed. I tried to keep it as much on the hitting side as possible. The backhand, she didn't want to change. I wanted the racket head above the wrist. Okay, I wanted her to do it a little bit different, kind of like how Djokovic might hit the ball. But she wanted to bow her wrist down and put the racket down. And, you know, she was big enough and strong enough. And even though biomechanically it wasn't optimal, you know, it worked. And so some of the best coaching, there's not a wrong way or right way. There's a better way. And maybe this time it was the Williams way. So some of the best coaching keeps your mouth shut and just kind of let it go because it kind of worked. And this open stance backhand that she wanted to hit, when she hit it up the line, still to this day, you can't read it. Her right hip goes one way, her hands go down the line, and it's money in the bank. So, you know, a lot of people criticized me early on, like, what is that all about? But plus it helped her recovery. So I like that. Then obviously, you know, the slice and the volleys, like anybody, you got to say the same thing 5, 7, 10,000 times a year with kids to clean it up. And this is what people don't understand. Coaching athletic players or people that have the ability to improvise is a lot trickier than building someone who maybe is more structured. You know what I mean? Because they have the ability to do things. And so I kind of let it play out some of these things because the difference between a great shot and a good shot, can you hit it off balance when you're running, hit it down the line, or do you got a lob like the rest of the world? So I can see this in both girls, and you can see how they're so clutch on the run to produce quality shots. It's not only their foot speed, but they had no fear. And I trained, you know, the girls. It was never about it was never about keeping the ball in play. I mean, they were pulling the trigger all the time, especially Venus. And, you know, you miss 4 out of 10, then, you know, 6 months later, you're missing 2 out of 10. You know, it gets better and better. So that's the art of coaching. And so spending 4 years with someone, 6 hours a day, 365 days, I mean, people got to understand that's when you really develop.
Yeah. No, very interesting. Very, very interesting. Did they have a favorite drill, or was there a drill they absolutely hated?
First off, that's a great question. And no one's asked me that. But yes, they love to have the hitting partner at the net and them at the net. And we called it the Compton Street Fight. I mean, they love to just volley it. And it wasn't even about, I think, the enjoyment of just hitting the volley. They just love to hit the ball at people. But I love that quality in 2 young little girls that, you know, were so competitive, and Serena was like a little pit bull, and Venus was so intense. So to have that quality, but if there was one drill, I mean, it wasn't hitting cross court for an hour, trust me, or down the line or whatever. But when everybody got at the net, they liked that more than anybody. because I think they really enjoyed hitting the ball at people. And I got to tell this real quick. One time, Venus and Serena were playing this doubles game against Andy and John Roddick, because I had Andy there at the same time. Okay. And when they got at the net, it was like the Texas Cowboys versus the Compton Warriors. I mean, it was crazy. It was crazy stuff. And, you know, when we all talk and meet and stuff like that, we all just start laughing, because there was true competitiveness, because the Roddick brothers, as you can tell by Andy, he's one of the better competitors. Oh no, he was brutal. So it was amazing. But I love that drill, and they wanted to do that all the time.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
Another question: in the relationship between a coach and a tennis parent, may be the most difficult of all in tennis. Most coaches want the parents, in my opinion, to disappear and not be involved. How did you manage Richard, since he was extremely stubborn and I assume very difficult to deal with? But how did you manage Richard, and what do you think about coach-parents involvement?
Yeah, no, awesome question. And that's one I've been asked a lot, not just recently, but my whole life. And, you know, the first thing I say is, I not only train the kids, but I train the parent, you know, so that's but also I should probably be in the Hall of Fame just for putting up with Richard for 4 years. I mean, no, I'm just kidding. No, I mean, listen, you know, this is what it's all about. You know, you got to understand how to deal with things, even when, you know, you have the pedigree, or, you know, what I've done in my lifetime, you know, all the accolades or people I've coached. And then you're having parents kind of tell you what to do. You know, it takes a very strong person to take a deep breath, count to 20, or maybe count to 100, because if I would have reacted, I would have never, it would have lasted one day. The same with Stefano Capriati or Jim Pierce or some of these other fathers I've had to deal with. But with Richard, you know, I knew what I was getting into. And not only what he would say, maybe that would be a little bit out there tennis wise, but he was such an amazing father, and how he handled these girls. He brought their books every day to the court. If it rained, they went to my office. Every night they said, "Thank you, Rick, very much." How he interacted with these girls every day, you know, to me, that trumped everything. I wasn't going to get caught up into the nonsense or any of the craziness, because you got to remember, he would also say a lot of things in the media, and I'd have to come back in there and kind of gloss it over, because, you know, we're all telling everybody how good Venus is going to be, and she hasn't done anything, you know, and I'm saying she's going to be better than Capriati. And, you know, so I'm not the flavor of the month either. So, you know, we were both, it was me and Richard against the world. He was crazy stubborn, you know, but you got to understand, he was my best friend, and the girls were like my own daughters.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you. That's what I wanted to ask you. Richard Williams comes across in the movie, which honestly surprised me, as a very good, I mean, I don't know how to put this, but I didn't expect that. He comes across as a very good father and husband. How was he as a friend?
Yeah, no, listen, that part of the movie was 100% spot on. That's how he was as a father, always protecting. He was always that way every day, 7 days a week. And he was that way in the relationship I saw with Orsine. But with me, it was different, because you got to understand, I funded the whole project, as you see in the movie. You know, there's some crazy money put into this. You know, without that, maybe this doesn't happen. Or one injury, this doesn't happen. You know, I'm the one that took the chance. And we're talking hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. I mean, hitting partners, Taekwondo. So I think Richard, you know, because we had this amazing friendship, I wasn't just a girl's coach. I was a father figure. I was a role model. I was a mentor. It was more than that. And Richard was my best friend. So it's a little different when he would say something, because he probably knew that I was going to handle it. I wouldn't ever got involved in this. I mean, he just knew how I was put together. But more importantly, if I handled him, then I win, because I was there for one reason: make these girls number one in the world and transcend the sport. Yeah, I'm not listen, I'm not going to pay someone a $54,000 salary or a $92,000 motorhome or $1 million house or all this stuff that I rolled the dice. That's different than just a coach saying, I'll coach you for free. Maybe other people will come. Less people came to the academy when I taught them because there was less of my time because I was with them 4 to 5 hours every day. So Richard was amazing. But for people on the outside, people thought he was a maniac. And people are looking at that movie going, how did Rick even deal with that? But that's one of the art of coaching. You got to deal with all the personalities. And I guess we made it work. That's all I can say, because the rest is history.
No, that's amazing. I mean, well, what you did, I don't want to sort of go into it. I have heard of, obviously funding the whole journey and free lessons. And then obviously you were offered a contract for another 5 years that had some clauses, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I don't want to really go into that. But obviously, anyway, it all worked out. But one last question on Richard, then I'll leave it on. Exactly, in the movie, I think to create greatness in sport, or maybe in everything, you must be on the limit of maybe being crazy or obsessive. And in a way, would you say he was also a bit naive or desperate in his approach? Was there a bit of luck? Or did he just know exactly from the beginning what he wanted? And is there a bit of madness in that?
Well, yeah, there's definitely a method to his madness. But let me back the truck up and elaborate. First off, great questions. I think in his situation, he knew deep inside, he saw something like I did in these two little girls. Okay, now, I know all parents feel that way about their kids, especially daddy's little girl. They're all, but he had other daughters too, and they didn't have those qualities. So I think he saw something inside, and which he did, and he saw the speed and the quickness. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to be a great player, and that doesn't mean you're going to be number one, and that doesn't mean you're going to be one of the greatest ever. I just, I think that is where I had to come in, because without the hitting partners and having the opportunity, who knows where this could have went? You know what I mean? There's a big difference between great and good. Great is rare air. Great is a special fraternity. Everybody's good. So, I mean, listen, that age 10 to 15 time frame that I put Humpty Dumpty together with all this, stuff that was going on, and it was filet mignon. It was top of the heap. Every stone was unturned. And so I think Richard knew he had something. Now, how he went about doing it, if he thought it was a slam dunk, he would have stayed in Compton and coached him himself. So he had to call, and I think because of, my personality and just how I came across, and he knew what I could do. And after me and him talking for so long, and that, how I was on a mission, and I almost cared more than he did, if that was possible. He knew he found the right guy that knew what was going on, and I was on a mission. So I know the 78 page, the plan, and you get all this stuff, but you got to have the goods. If you're going to win the Derby, you better have the thoroughbreds. And he knew he had something special, and I did too. Or I would have never ever done this. I wouldn't even have coached him for free, let alone funded anything, if I thought it was limited. I mean, you got to remember, I had Jennifer, I had Sharapova, I had Mosquina, I had Pierce, I had Roddick. It's a business.
You had already seen great tennis.
So they checked 2 more boxes. I just thought it was bigger than tennis, and people don't understand where I'm coming from. I didn't do it to become more famous, or I did it because I knew they could become number one if I did what I could do, and they could transcend the sport. I mean, that's a crazy thing to say, because now you can't really say that about someone, because the game's so much more athletic. But so I saw it through both those lenses. 2 kids, number one in the world, from the same house, and they share the same bedroom. I mean, give me a break.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's incredible. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Do you think there is something in the movie that was left out that was crucial to the story? Was there something that you thought they left out?
Yes. Another great question. I think, well, hey, listen, I don't want to be a critic, but because the movie's epic, it's inspirational, dedication, inspiration. Like I said, motivation, perspiration, it's everything. I mean, it makes you laugh and cry. So there's something for everybody, and so much of it is so spot on true. But the first thing, and I'm actually doing an interview tomorrow about this, the only thing I wish they would have done differently, and they left it out, even if it was at the end with the credits, I wish they would have came back and said, Jennifer Capriati came back from 160 in the world, went all the way back to #1 in the world, won a gold medal in the Summer Olympics, won 2 Grand Slams, and got a $10 million contract from FILA. They kind of, a lot of people just thought, oh, she got off the tour and she had, this drug thing, which that's kind of not exactly true either. And they kind of, a lot of people don't even know who she was, and the mugshot and all that. That was the only thing they should have in the credits came back.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. That's a story within itself. You disappear, you go to 160, you come all the way back to #1.
Sorry to interrupt you. Sorry to interrupt you. I think that would be another amazing movie.
Well, it would be.
Soon you're going to become more of a movie star than a tennis player if they as well. No. But that's an amazing story.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. What Jennifer did. So that listen, it is what it is. That's public knowledge, but a lot of people didn't know. But they should have put a bow around it and made, just for her, because obviously she saw the movie, or mom sees the movie. I just thought that they dropped the ball in that area, and probably some other little things were, there's so many amazing stories. I mean, I probably have 50 without even thinking about it, of me and Richard, me, Venus and Serena, that people would have been on the floor laughing and crying about some of the training and some of the things that unfolded in those 4 years. It would have made it even better, but I'm not going to Monday morning quarterback like, oh, it could have been better. But there's so many amazing stories that could have been in there that would have made it even better. But at the end of the day, listen, it's a masterpiece. And this is going to be one of the best sports movies of all time. It's going to stand the test of time. I'm telling you, there's going to be some awards won from this movie, simply because the way it's put together and the tennis looks real. So I think they did an incredible job.
No, for sure. Will Serena win another slam?
I say yes, and here's why I say it. She's not going to let go. You never underestimate the heart of a champion. And now, with that being said, a little tougher, you get older, you lose a half a step, you become a mother, maybe you're not as hungry. But talking to her at the after party when I went to the red carpet in California, listen, I know that the way she's wired, and if she can just play and get confidence, because I think she's going to need confidence, even though people think you've won that much, you should have it. No, you can't buy it at a store. The confidence comes from playing, and when she gets confident, she'll take the ball earlier, she'll cut the court, she's going to get the serve in more to the corners, and then people will know, okay, Serena is back. Right now, there's no one afraid of her. They're not afraid of her. There's no fear factor. So when she gets confident, she'll play through people. But right now, she's not going to play through people. So she has to play. But if she wants to play and she sticks to it, I have no doubt on a hard court or Wimbledon, she can win a Grand Slam. Clay, I don't think so. But never underestimate the heart of a champion. Okay.
Very interesting. You are considered one of the greatest tennis coaches in the world. Would you say your best quality is that you are an incredible motivator? Or do you think your technical side is more important?
First off, great question. I never really look at it like that. I let other people judge whatever they want to think of. I'd like to think my greatest quality is whatever I have to do for the person on the other side of the net, that hour, that minute, that second. It's a medley of, biomechanics, technique, footwork, fitness, the mental part, the motivation. But a lot of people, the environment that I create to try to extract greatness, that's what a lot of people, but I do that every day, even if I'm giving more of a technical lesson, because of the enthusiasm, the passion, and most of all, how I can explain it. Probably my number one asset would be the art of communication, and how I can identify a problem and I can put Humpty Dumpty together. I can correct things, even if I have to reverse engineer it very quickly, but I can explain it and people understand it, not like I have a PhD and they go, what did that guy just say? So I think it's a combination of everything, and whatever people want to think, whether he's one of the best or whatever people think, they're going to think, because there's a lot of people out there that might be a lot more famous. Okay. But when you've been on a tennis court, pretty much your whole life more than anybody. And that's a fact. And I still teach 50 hours a week, whether it's a 4-year-old or someone top 10 in the world or a 7-year-old guy, so it's a little different what I do. I kind of get the ingredients, I put it together, I put it in the oven, I bake it, I put icing on it. To stay with it on the pro tour, that's tricky because I got a business to run. I got people from all over the world that come here and I work with. So it's a little different. I build the box. I guess that's what I would say. I kind of build the player. I build the box, and maybe some other coaches would rather wait around and sit in the box, and that's never been my big thing. I think that's what perception, people, that guy's great. Okay, listen, if someone has won 10 grand slams, I think you or I could coach them. Come on. I mean, come on, maybe, you know what I'm saying? And so that's more motivation and strategy and getting a practice court. You're not going to do any heavy lifting at that. And that's not to take anything away, but what I do is very, very different than anybody in the world. And, the people that I've influenced and put their games together at the most crucial times. Let's face it, the cards you're dealt at a young age, they're kind of hard to get rid of that muscle memory, So at the end of the day, to be considered one of the best, that's great. I'm humbled by that.
Now, you actually already answered another question I had, because you've never been a traveling coach to a pro, if I'm correct. And is that simply because you like to be on court every day?
Yeah. Well, first off, another great question. I did go with Tommy Ho a little bit, a boy who was the youngest to win Kalamazoo, the boys 18 national. He won it as a 15-year-old, 15 gold balls by age 15. Tommy got to like 82 in the world and 11 in doubles. I went with him a little bit early on, but not very much. I took Venus to her debut. I mean, she made her pro debut. I took Venus to her pro debut when she almost beat #1 in the world. I took Messina to the U.S. Open when she qualified and almost beat Mary Jo Fernandez, who I just saw at the park before I left. She was there with her son. So, but no, I never wanted to travel, and I've had many opportunities to even go with top 10 players, but I just never wanted to, because the way those things work is this: everything's good. There's 4 or 5 other people involved, 5 bad losses. You're out, your history. Now what? Now you got to come back and you try to put together. I've run this thing since 1985. I have a very unique model. I'm the engine. I teach probably 3,000 hours of private lessons a year just here. And I have other guys that do the academy, and we have fitness and like everybody else. But this is a very unique model because I'm here all the time, most of the time. Unless I went to the red carpet, I had to make an exception for that. And, I talk to everybody, I email, I text. So I'm very much involved, and the personalized touch that they get at Rick Macci Tennis Academy is very much different in the world, because I've done it and I'll do it. I'll help your son or daughter, no matter what age or level. but I've never had the desire to do that. And even right now, if a top 5 player asked me and threw crazy money at me to travel, I wouldn't do it. I mean, simply because I have a great situation. I love what I'm doing. Now, if one of the students I have here, got to the finals US Open or whatever, and they want me to come up, I'd come up and sit in the box, but that's never been the way I wanted to do it. So reality, as far as like coaching, what I do is very different than, a travel coach, because in my opinion, that's a heck of a lot easier.
Okay, interesting. Just another little question on coaching. Then I'll finish with the coaching. A coach recently, actually the other day, told me that in his opinion, he can bring anyone from, let's say, a 3 out of 10 as a player to maybe a 7, 8 out of 10 player. But then from then on, the rest is up to them. Would you agree with that statement?
No, I would not. No, I mean, I'm sure he has his reasons and opinion. Absolutely not. I mean, if you understand science and you understand physics and you understand the biomechanical principles in the technical part of the game, mainly, forehand, backhand serve, because most of the people on the tour serve incorrectly. The majority of the girls on the WTA tour, it's incorrect how the leg drive is not synchronized properly with the racket. And I don't want to go down that rabbit hole right now, but so you can always tweak and you can always adjust. And I think, his statement is with maybe his ability to say the rest is up to the player. Not true at all, because a different set of eyes, a different voice, could change the landscape, or different strategy. Fernandez didn't want to stay with Tennis Canada the way they wanted her to play. And this new guy got her on the baseline to take advantage of her hand-eye and, so she could control the center of the court, and they did their own thing. And look, she plays much bigger than her small stature. So I agree with what the guy's saying. I understand the logic, but no, totally different. I have people, there's probably over 30 girls on the tour that I work with that come in all the time, and they come in with their coaches. And there's like 6 or 7 guys on the tour I work with also. So they kind of use me for, okay, here's what you want to do technically, or a different set of eyes, even strategically. But as well as I do, when you go down that yellow brick road and you get older, a lot of times you don't want to make changes. You want help. You want help, but you don't want to change anything. It's kind of a weird thing.
I'm sorry to keep you, but I've just got a few more questions, not many.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks. No, I actually many years ago started looking at your YouTube instructional videos, and honestly, they're brilliant. And I think what you said earlier is spot on, because you're able to break down the stroke or whatever you're explaining very simply, and that's why these videos, well, I would recommend anybody to look at them, because especially you've got one on the forehand, which is quite famous, and you focus a lot on the mechanics. It's the modern ATP forehand, tapping the dog and all that. That's excellent. But what I want to ask you is, do you think that something like, let's take an example, like the forehand technique, which most players now are using, do you think that will further develop, or can it also completely change from where it is now?
First off, amazing question. Yeah, as people get bigger, stronger, and faster, there's always going to be adaptations or modifications in the sports science application of hitting a ball. Now, what I've done, and the way the video you're talking about that got, I don't know, like 6 million views or whatever. So it's like, it was pretty much what's going on, because I think people agree in general, the forehand on the women's tour looks different than the men's, and vice versa. It looks different. What are they doing? So I explained exactly what's going on with the racket going to the outside, the pull, the flip, the racket hits the slot. So I got into all these things where people could understand it. And it's all saying one thing. If I could make your stroke shorter, but make it faster, would you want that stroke? And everybody in the world should be teaching that. because eventually the balls are going to be coming 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. Some balls are 100 miles an hour. So if you're teaching an old school stroke, listen, if it's a club player or they just want to have fun, that's different. But if you have a junior, especially a guy, this is mandatory stuff. So to answer your question, there will be a little adaptation. You can invert the racket head, like tilt it down like Roddick did, or Kyrgios, or, you know, the elbow can be a little higher. There'll be certain modifications, but those are more personal interpretations that each player makes. But the racket going to the outside, okay, it's really revolutionized probably forever the way the game is going to be taught, because you still got to have a backswing. I mean, it's not going to, you can't make it much shorter. You know, you pull it and it goes the other way and then it goes faster. So what I'm trying to say is, I don't think there'll be little modifications of the elbow position, but on the backhand, I mean, you know, the leader in the clubhouse is Djokovic. He pulls with the right hand, he pushes with the left, the racket flips down and back. But that's not to say there's not amazing backhands out there on the women's side. It's a little easier because there's more trunk rotation and you can coil all the way around and bring it back and still stabilize. So, but I do think the backhand will shorten up a little bit, because let's face it, the game's getting bigger, faster, stronger with the technology and the strings. And this maybe 10 years from now, everybody's going to be hitting the ball 100 miles an hour. Let's say slow the game down somehow. But great question. No, that's a great question. And listen, everybody should learn. You know, I didn't teach the Williams sisters that. I didn't even know that. Roddick kind of did that in '91. He had his elbow back, and he kind of taught me. He kind of taught me.
I was going to, sorry to interrupt you. I was going to ask you, do you think that modern forehand, maybe, who started it? Was it started with Roddick? I don't know.
He was one of the first to lead with the elbow back. But back in the day, even Pete Sampras, if you look at, he had an Eastern grip, but he took the racket back with the elbow, even though he did put the racket back probably a little behind him at times. Roddick was one of the first. Marcelo Rios did this, if I remember. But yeah, when Roddick did it, I was going, what the heck is this all about? He kind of, but once I kept looking at it and I saw the racket go faster and it was shorter, I'm going, I like this kid's forehand. And remember, he was like 5 feet tall, 90 pounds. And he was just nailing the forehand when he connected. So once again, for any coach out there, and this is from Rick Macci, the students can teach you probably more than anybody.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah.
For better,
last question. Yeah. Last question, and then I've got a very brief rapid fire, if you don't mind. But the last question I want to ask you is, what is the biggest lesson tennis has taught you?
The biggest lesson tennis has taught me, well, me personally, or me as a coaching people?
No, personally, if you
no,
don't mind.
I think, well, first off, I've always been a very patient person, but I think, you know, dealing on a tennis court with so many parents and kids my whole life, you know, it's almost like I have no pulse to this stuff. I have more patience than anybody, and I don't really ever get frustrated. I just get more determined. So I think the patience, and then how you respond to solving problems, you know, I think that's the biggest thing, because, you know, you could, if you don't have the patience and you don't have the discipline to stick with it, you could just be off on another tangent and not even be where you should be at. And I think that's taught me the biggest thing, just patient. And I think dealing with just so many different levels of players, not just great players, because people all want to deal with like pros or good players, or maybe some people want to just deal with, you know, young kids or people adult, you know. To me, it doesn't matter. It's who's ever on the other side. So I think it's patience, but that comes from one thing, just loving to help other people more than you want to help yourself. And I think that's a real staple of any good coach or role model.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much, Rick. I've got a few rapid fire. We can do them very quickly if you've got 2 minutes.
Yeah, I got time. Go ahead.
Okay, thanks a lot. What is your very first memory of tennis?
Hitting the ball against the wall in Greenville, Ohio.
Define to our listeners what type of player you are.
The way I played?
Yeah.
Quick, fast, athletic, aggressive, just love to compete.
Okay. Best shot. Your best shot.
Backhand down the line. That was money in the bank.
This one could be a bit tricky. List the big three, Federer, Nadal, Djokovic, from your favorite to your least favorite.
Well, I like Federer the best because he makes the game look so easy and he's a great role model for everybody. I like Djokovic's mental strength of how he's just, always there. I'm very impressed how he's transformed his game. He wasn't like that early on in his career. And Nadal is the best role model, just how to handle mistakes. The guy's bulletproof.
Okay, interesting. Will Djokovic or Nadal win any more slams? I don't think Federer will, so I didn't put him in. But do you think Djokovic or Nadal will win more slams?
Absolutely. As Djokovic has a lot more left in him. Remember, the Federer's out of there, going to probably be out of there, and Nadal might not be exactly where he was. So I think Djokovic can win 4, 5, 6 more, and Nadal, you never count him out on red clay. So I think both of them have more in the tank, and I think they're definitely going to grab some.
Is Djokovic the greatest player of all time?
I think he'll go down as the greatest because he's going to win more slams. But I think the best player of all time, in my opinion, that I've seen in my lifetime is Federer. There's a difference.
Okay, very interesting. Best tournament in the world?
Because I live in America, I like the U.S. Open just because of the atmosphere and the crowd.
Okay. You have to book a restaurant and invite 3 players, male or female. Which restaurant do you book and who do you invite? It can be any era.
Well, they might not like the restaurant because all I eat is chicken. But that being said, I'll probably go to J. Alexander's here in Boca Raton. And I would, I don't like to even single people. I would invite Venus, and I would invite Serena. And I'd have, and even though she's not on the tour, I'd have Serena bring her little daughter.
Okay. So you eat only chicken? Are you serious?
Yeah, 7 days a week. That's all I eat is chicken. I might throw in a steak once a month, but yeah, chicken. And I'm very structured. I'm just like boom, boom, boom. I'm a very structured guy. I get up at 3:30, run a half mile. I kind of eat the same thing, and I just. But hey, it works for me, and I love it. And when you love what you do, it's not work. And so it's just one day at a time, and I just try to get better every day.
Yeah, what I was going to ask you also is, obviously your passion is tennis, but is there anything else you like to do? Like when you've got
before I used to play basketball every weekend. I played high level with like some of the best college players in the United States, and I played high level basketball. But once I tore a meniscus, then I said, I can't do it anymore because I got to be on the court. But I just always loved to play basketball. But, I think fun or what you love doing is all in the eye of the beholder. So when I'm not at work, just spending time with my daughters or hanging out with my cat. I got 4 cats here, and I train cats. Not only I train players, I train cats. So that's my fun. I like work, and I work 7 days a week, and that's my fun. And everybody I coach is considered my second family.
Okay. A lot of players are superstitious. Are you a superstitious person?
No, I'm not superstitious. I just try to make people super. How's that?
Okay. Favorite country?
United States.
Favorite city?
Boca Raton, Florida.
Is tennis the most difficult sport in the world?
Well, it depends who's trying to play it. I think it's one of the most difficult because you're by yourself. You don't have teammates. I think mentally it's brutal. You got to be wired very, very different. So to answer your question, yeah, it's one of the most difficult, especially from a psychological point of view.
Okay, fantastic. Rick, I mean, I honestly could probably keep you another 2 or 3 hours, but we're going close to 1 hour, and I really appreciate you giving me this time. I mean, you're a legendary coach, and I really enjoyed this this conversation. So thank you very much.
No, it's my pleasure, and we'll do it again when you get it all wrapped up. Send it to me, and we'll throw it on all our social media so everybody can hear it live from South Africa.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
Thank you.